Basically what we're talking about here is Chicago Public Schools have really created a lot of new policies and procedures that are hurting our students with disabilities. And so what's happening is they created these procedures so they can deny students services or create obstacles to parents getting special education services for their children, and frankly they're doing it to cut money. We know that, Chicago Public Schools are always trying to cut money off the backs of our students, and in this case, off our most vulnerable students, our students with disabilities, and we've really seen this great harms to our schools. We have cases here where there are classrooms with students with very severe needs, with severe disabilities, and Chicago Public Schools have cut the classroom assistants so much that teachers say that when there's a fire drill or an emergency, the teacher has to choose who to save in these scenarios because they don't have enough classroom assistants to actually carry the students out. So this really is a crisis, special education, and the parents and teachers, even lawyers and classroom assistants are uniting to fight back against this. And because we have to, because it's really a crisis and it's hurting our students. Also, Chicago Public Schools have massively cut the funding to special education. They cut every school's funding by at least 4%. There's also massive vacancies, over 600 vacancies of special education teachers. So that's resulting in over $85 million in cuts to special education. And this is really an atrocity to our schools. Almost every single school, on average, every school has 1 to 2 vacancies in special education. So what we're seeing happen is our students with disabilities aren't getting serviced with the academic needs and behavioral and emotional needs that they need.
My name is Catherine Henchek, and I'm here as a member of Parents for Teachers and the parent of a 9th grader with special needs who's a student at Vaughan Occupational High School. And I've been attending the workshop at the Teachers for Social Justice meeting about special needs. My child's now 14, and he's now functioning academically at probably around a kindergarten, first grade level. And I never really thought that he may even be able to get to that stage. I was worried that he'd never be able to read. And the only reason he's been able to do that is because we've had so much support from teachers, gen ed teachers, paraprofessionals, special ed teachers, nurses, all the different therapists and counselors that he's had. And I'm really worried that that's not going to continue. We have a budget shortfall, which we're seeing that they are cutting a lot of those support staff. It's making it harder for children to get paraprofessionals and seekers to help them. We're cutting nursing staff, we're cutting counselors, and these are the people that really help our children succeed. And I think my child can go on and become a productive member of society. He could go on and get a job and be part of this community. But to get there, he needs that help, and I'm really afraid that that help is going to be cut.
Sí, vine a este encuentro específicamente al taller de educación especial. Me interesaba el tema porque tengo un hijo en Juarez que tiene algunas necesidades.
I came here to the workshop on special education rights because I am a parent and I have a child at Juarez and he has a disability.
Creo que es mucha información y muchos obstáculos para poder acceder bien a la educación especial.
I think that there are a lot of obstacles to really access special education well.
Y muchas veces pocos recursos para los padres en términos del idioma.
And there are not many resources for parents in Spanish.
Yo creo que lo que más se necesita en las escuelas, y creo que es en todas las escuelas, que el tiempo para la evaluación y para implementar un proceso de educación especial sea más corto.
I think that the process for getting your student an evaluation and getting special education services should be shorter.
Creo que también falta mucho más conocimiento de padres, pero también de profesores y estudiantes sobre todo lo que es la educación especial y a lo que tendríamos derecho.
I think that there's a lot of misinformation among parents and teachers and students about what's going on with special education and also our rights.
I am a charter school special educational teacher, and I am not only am in the classroom, I am also the special educational representative for our contract talks for Aspira. The things that interest me are very large sizes of special educational students and not a whole lot of support. I have 17 students in a separate setting classroom. There are no para supports, and the classes are getting larger and larger because more students are coming in. And there are no supports, and it is very stressful in that separate setting classroom. Cognitive levels are all over the place, and trying to handle it for the curriculum and modify everything that they're trying to learn is very difficult. Without the time, there is no time to do most of the management. Is very, very difficult. And I heard about the task force for special education and the new mandates that are rolling down. And yes, I am very interested in how they are going to affect me, because they are starting to affect me now. The new testing that students have to do prior to being in their IEP meetings for their re-eval is, when is it going to happen, and how am I going to try to figure out where that time is coming from, because my schedule is really, really packed right now.
Well, I work with families of children with developmental delays who are just entering Chicago Public Schools for the first time, and I am seeing countless families being turned away from Chicago Public Schools. I've had students be told, their parents were told that they are fine, they are performing above average, and then later they go and get diagnosed as having autism. So we're having CPS turn away so many of our children, and I don't know what to do and where to send them. We're having this mass exodus out of Chicago Public Schools, so I came here today to speak with some folks from the Chicago Special Ed Task Force to talk about how we can educate students and parents alike to know their rights, to fight against the illegal things that are being done every day in CPS, and to consider what kind of speaking up we need to do with the Board of Education, as well as corporations across this state that are draining money that should be going towards our public schools. And we've been brainstorming and forming connections across the city, and I am really looking forward to continuing to work with them on direct action, know your rights, and other ways of standing up for the free and appropriate public education that all of our children deserve.
And I attended the special education breakout session at the Teachers for Social Justice curriculum fair today because I'm concerned about the cuts to special education that are affecting my students and frankly also my job security. I'm very concerned that there is almost a witch hunt to try to discredit special educators and portray us as being unfit for our profession, which is a profession that I love and care very deeply about. So I learned a lot at this session today about legal ways that I can push back against some of the mandates that are being put upon us by the district. And I plan to bring this information back to the other special education teachers, paraprofessionals, and clinicians at my school so that we can be united in our resistance to the district trying to deny services to our kids.
CPS last school year implemented all means all into a larger portion of their schools. I believe about 120 so for the special education budget, which substantially cut the positions that were allocated to each school, as well as detrimental funding for those schools. They called that formula fundamentally flawed. However, I am here because CPS this year, while they called last year's formula fundamentally flawed, has instituted a budget policy that mixes the special education and general education funds together, requiring the LSCs, which govern the neighborhood schools, budget as well as principals, pitting general education and special education teachers, service providers, students, and families against each other, as CPS is underfunding special education, requiring that general education funds be used to service special education. On top of that, not only the budget attacks, but CPS has instituted a policies and procedural manual that dictates the way they expect their employees to provide services and write things such as an IEP, which is a legal document that outlines a student with disabilities' federal right to services listed in that document. CPS has required an enormous amount of paperwork as well as data collection that is not in line with best practice, but instead is guaranteeing or hoping for the guarantee that special education and clinicians will be overwhelmed with the paperwork and instead not provide the services that a child actually needs. To put that into context, I have 10 students in my classroom, which is a kindergarten through second grade separate class. So I just have special education students, where I would need to collect 450 pieces of data to provide paraprofessional support for my 10 students that have that support. They also, CPS has limited the rights to transportation for our students, in addition to extended school year, which is the right for a child with a disability to have access to the schooling over the summer at no charge, as well as has limited their rights for reevaluation.